Absolutely. Right when you know.
Okay. It's the first week into my job as an organizer. I've been sent to Wisconsin to organize home care workers across the state. It's rural Wisconsin, the first week of January. Freezing temperatures and snow on the ground. I arrive at a farmhouse and have to walk up a long, snowy dirt path. Open a gate just to get closer to the house. Immediately, I realize two giant German shepherds are running towards me, but are friendly. And I make my way to the front door, and am greeted by an adorable elderly man who invites me in. And I'll just stop there, but, the rest is like scattered pieces. But
that's very nice. That's very nice. And so you're trying to recruit this person to become a union advocate and a union member.
Yes. Yeah, he's taking care. He's the home care worker, and they're the most conservative Republicans in the state of Wisconsin, they tell me. But I'm there for like an hour, and by the end of it, they are for the union.
That's great. That's wonderful. That's a wonderful story. That's a wonderful story. And I think if you know, scratch a Republican and you'll find someone who cares about patients.
Yeah, and because he was taking care of his wife, like when it came down to it, it was like politics aside.
Right.
He knew that. I mean, when it came down to the fact that they were fighting over things that would affected directly the person he loved the most, it was like politics didn't matter anymore, and he wanted to do whatever it took.
Yeah, and I love the way you said it in the winter and the crunchy and the snow and the gate and the door. It's nice because we have a sense like we know exactly where you are. Like we can picture it in our mind. And that's a nice way to open up the story and get the story started. So that's very nice, very nicely done. A story is simply a sympathetic character with a problem to overcome. That's all that it is. A sympathetic character, that's you. You're a person that people like, that people feel good about. Nurses are respected. Nurses are loved. So it's a story about something that happened where you had to get something done. You had to overcome something, you had to reach some goal, you had to accomplish something. Could be doing a bed bath. One of my favorite stories is the first bed bath I gave a patient. I remember today. I can remember wrapping that wash rag around my hand the first time, my first patient. So I want you to take a few minutes and think about something at work. It could be from your early experience, it could be from yesterday, and write something that happened with you and a patient, you and a coworker, you and a supervisor, or just you and your thoughts, you and your hopes and fears, and just write about something. And
it was a Friday. If it's not done today, it won't be done till Monday. I was talking with Mrs. Gibbons as I did my morning assessment. She was very sweet, 90 years old with terminal cancer. She told me she had a dream last night, and in it her mother came to her. She told me she was going to die in the next 24 hours. I asked her if she was okay with this, and she told me there was only one thing she wanted, and that was to see her garden one more time. I believed her when she told me she only had 24 hours, and so began the phone calls to her son, her daughter, her doctor, and trying to find a hospice who could get her home that same day. Her son and daughter agreed to her wishes. The doctor would order hospice service, but my problem came with hospice. The two had already said they could get her home, but not till tomorrow. But that would be too late, I told them. She was going to die tomorrow. They thought I was crazy, and so I kept calling until I found one that would allow her to go home today. That's all I wrote.
That's beautiful. That's just beautiful. That is just beautiful. Yeah. And see,
she was going to give me the lottery number too after she died the next day. She did.
Put that in Mr. Maryland. Write that down. Write that down. She promised to give me the lottery ticket. I put that early in the story. She promised to give me a lottery ticket if I would take her home that day.
Okay.
Now that isn't why you did it, because you never thought that she would really do it.
Oh no! When she told me she
Yeah. And so it's like Rosebud. It's like that movie. What's that movie? Citizen Kane, right? You send her home, and as she's leaving the hospital, right? You're sending her, you're wrapping the blanket on her. She's on the gurney. She's going to the ambulance to go home. And she in her little frail little hand, she opens her frail little hand, and there's the lottery ticket for you. And then you're out, and you're out of the story.
I'm still waiting for the lottery number. She promised me.
Put that down.
Part of the deal.
Put that down.
So she could die where she wanted to, and I must have missed the numbers.
That's a lovely story. Next one. You should know that writing is a process of rewriting, right? The best writers, Stephen King, the best writers never get it right the first time. So writing is a process of writing and reading aloud. And the best way to do that is to get a group at work, get a group in your community, and you get together once a week and you read aloud the story you're working on. And if you read aloud, you then get feedback from your friends, and they help you to build a better story and write a better story. And you go with this process until you're satisfied that the story is just right. And when you're satisfied, then it's ready to submit to your publisher. In this case, submit to your union. And they will be, hopefully they will be publishing your stories online or in the magazine. And they may even come and put together a collection of your stories in a book. Nowadays, we can publish books with this print-on-demand technology. They can print one book, they can print 50 books, they can print 100 books, as many as you like, very inexpensively. This is a collection of stories that steelworkers put together out of a writing workshop. They attended a writing workshop after working in the steel mill, and they had a writing coach help them, and together they published a beautiful collection. It's available today in print. You can go to Amazon and you can order it, and it's beautiful stories about on the job, working on the job.
As a new nurse, I started out working overnight on a busy med-surg floor. One night, while on rounds, I heard one of our younger patients screaming for help. Helene, our aide, and I went running to his bedside. This young man, whom I'll call Mark, had just had orthopedic surgery on his hand, and it was in a sling attached to an IV pole at the bedside. On entering the room, we discovered that one of our elderly female dementia patients, Gladys, had stripped naked and wandered into Mark's room. Gladys was standing over Mark, was tugging on his sling and muttering, "This goddamn light will turn on and I have to pee." Helene and I quickly jumped into action, covering Gladys with a blanket, getting her to release her death grip on poor Mark's sling, and that's as far as I got.
That's great. That's great. That's great. And it shows that we all have funny stories to tell. But the funny thing is, it wasn't funny to Mark. So that's like, that gives a story an edge.
A 16-year-old boy.
Right.
With this little old saggy lady.
Right. Little old saggy. Put that down. Poor little
the first naked woman he ever saw.
little old saggy lady. Write this down. You'll forget it. You'll forget it.
Yeah.
Little old saggy lady. First naked lady. It's the first naked lady. It's probably the first naked lady Mark ever saw, and she was 90 years old. Poor little guy. See, that's right. You can milk that story. You milk that story. You work that story. I think the nurses would like to get some experience in telling their story, because when you write your story, and then your union publishes it in their magazine or online, it's part of this whole struggle that the speakers have been talking about all day, about how we need to fight for our benefits, fight for our jobs, fight for the financing for our patients. And when you tell your legislators, your media people, your church leaders, when you tell them what you do, when you write your story and you publish your story and they read that story, it's really, I think it's harder for them to say, oh, well, nurses don't matter. Oh, nurses aren't important. No, anybody can do that job. So the idea behind this project, this workshop, is to get you started in working at telling your story, telling the story of a nurse.
I wish that one day we could figure out the human brain, and maybe 1 hour, or maybe one day, we could find a cure for aphasia. But on my weekend shift, I want to make a difference. I want to make a difference. I find that this beautiful lady who now cannot speak once was a cook. After a 12-hour shift, I buy a box cake, and the next day, with a smile, she makes this as part of her therapy. I may not be able to stop a stroke or find a magical cure, but I make a difference in someone's life.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. That's a lovely story, And I would again, you want to end it with a little pop. So you could describe a little bit about how she stirred the batter, she put it in the oven, and she was so happy. And then we smelled it. We smelled the sweetness as it cooked, and then the timer rang, and you knew it was done. The timer rang, and we knew the cake was done. Bang, and then it's over. And it gives the reader a little kind of sense of release, because just as the cake was done, the story was done. Okay, so you get out. You manage. You have to have an exit, and so that's a lovely story. I hope that you continue working on them. Get together with coworkers at work, or at a convenient place in your neighborhood, coffee shop, and read aloud. You read aloud to each other. Make a date. Once a month, twice a month, make a date. Get together, read aloud, and then, you'll have a book. Okay. Well, I think we've run out. We've run out of our tales to tell. So let me recap. Okay, I'll recap that as you've all demonstrated today, that as nurses, you have stories that the public needs to hear, because we need to convince the public, right, that we are worth every penny we earn and more, and that they need to fund our healthcare system more. They need to put more money into it. Okay, so that's one reason to write. Another reason to write is because it's fun. It's fun. Writing is fun. It's satisfying, especially in a group. You have a group, you laugh together, you cry together, and you can seeing yourself in print at the end of the road is a lovely experience. It's a lot of fun knowing that some people out there, maybe in the other side of the world, my books, because they're the e-books, they're read all over the world. I mean, people read them from I get emails from people from all kinds of places. And it's a very satisfying experience to know that you've touched people's heart around the world.